Good evening, fish tankers. Today we're going to do a deep dive into this 12-inch 7-gallon 30 centimeters 27 liters Nano cube aquarium sitting on my desk. How it got started, what it used to be, how it developed, what it is now, as well as some of the mistakes I've made and some of the things I've did right, everything that I've learned in the process. Sounds good? Stick around. Okay, so one holiday in December, I decided I wanted to do a little cube aquarium for my desk. I wanted to try my hand at a bit of aquascaping, and I wanted it to be this 30 centimeter cube. And I couldn't find one in the shops anywhere, and the glass suppliers have closed for the year. They couldn't make me one. And then I did the first mistake. It wasn't intentional, but I made the aquarium myself. So far so good. It's been here for 2.5 years, but I'm not a handyman. You can see the craftsmanship on those seams are terrible, but it does do the job because it's only a small tank. But it's not worth it making your own aquarium if you're only going to make one. You're not going to get the glass cheap enough to make it worth your while. So just go and buy it from the local fish store. Don't try and make it yourself, but I did, and it worked. It's just not as good as it could have been. Now I wanted to do some aquascaping, and I wanted to do something different. And so I decided also that I will try my hand at some aqua swirl. So I got some of the cheaper brands. It's the Istar aqua swirl that you see there on your screen, and I thought I'd give it a go to do a planted tank. And there you also see my first mistake. I didn't put in a thick enough layer of aqua swirl, and I had to weigh down these stem plants with some cable ties and pebbles. And as soon as the tank was cycled, in went a baby bristlenose pleco. You can see him going there. He's still small. He's now a big guy in my 75-gallon aquarium. Of course, the tank's too small for him. It was only initially. And they were also followed 3 ottocinclus, one of whom is still very much active in this tank. And they feasted on that biofilm that you get in a new tank. That's what the tank looked like. That was my first attempt. You see that betta there. I wanted to keep a betta again, or a Siamese fighter like we call him over here, because in my youth they were easy fish. Boy, was I wrong. Here we see that very first one. He lasted all of about 2-3 weeks before he got columnaris. I tried to cure him, I couldn't. Then the second one lasted a little longer. He was here probably just over a month, but he got dropsy. And then after that was this beautiful veil tail. This one went well, but it escaped through a tiny little feeding hole, or a little corner that I had in the lid. He got out there, jumped out of this, and I found him on the floor. And then I closed that gap, and then finally this plakat male came in here, and he did much better, and he lasted, I think he lived for well over a year in this tank. Then we tried to get some tank mates besides the bottom feeders, and I put in these 2 male endless. That worked out quite okay, but the endless, I think the water is a little bit soft for them with the aqua swirl. And eventually I replaced them with these celestial pearl danios that you see in the background. And there you can see that male is very active. It's not the one currently in the tank, but it's a similar one. Also a plakat. I think a lot of these bettas, especially the fancier varieties, they're very inbred, and they have an innate weakness in the genetics. Sometimes it makes them susceptible to disease, and also you've got to be careful with feeding them. Very easy on the feeding. Feed them the betta pellets combined with frozen food such as bloodworms. Stay away from the flakes. Here you can see how the tank developed with the aqua swirl in it. Tell me in the comment section, do you think this looked better, or does it look better now? I think this looked pretty good. Another mistake I made, we have a supposedly nutritious aqua swirl, but I put in a lot of epiphytes and stem plants instead of more rooted plants. I somehow completely, that slipped my mind. And you can see here the Java fin did actually quite well, much better than it does now. Inexplicably, it started dying off after about a year. It just started turning black. I didn't really change anything in the aquarium, so it still had the aqua swirl. And then the Java fern, after growing very well after a year, just started dying off. And the celestial Paul Daniels, I enjoyed them very much. You can see they're spawning here. Every now and then I'd see a tiny little glass sliver of a fry, which of course didn't last. You see I had some staghorn algae. That's the thing about algae, don't stress too much about it. But the celestial Paul Daniels, eventually they also weren't very long-lived fish. They always got columnaris, which I couldn't cure. I think it's a gene pool that I had there. And now it was converted just over a year ago. This tank is 2.5 years old, to a deep substrate. As you can see, an organic layer of potting soil, 2 parts peat, 1 part potting soil, 1 part compost, mixed in with a bit of bone meal and a pinch of Epsom salts, and then that 2 inches of sand over it, about 1 millimeter diameter, sort of a coarse-ish sand, but not gravel sand. So a 3-inch deep substrate. And you can see there, the equipment that I've used is a 6 watt plain cool white LED clip-on light. It's called a Nubios. It just has an on-off function, but a very simple aquarium light. You can see I've got a glass lid, and then the smallest sun internal power filter. It's only a 2 watt motor, and you can see I deflect the flow onto the glass so that it doesn't cause a lot of turbulence, and a tiny little sponge filter with an air pump. The sponge filter on its own would probably be enough, or the internal filter, but I like to have 2 smaller filters just in case. That's the heater. It's a 70 watt nano heater. The heater's element as well as the probe is in the tank, and then your thermostat sits outside, integrated into the plug, as you can see there with indicator lights, and you can set your temperature without getting your hands wet. I really like that feature about it. Then we're back to the tank. As you can see, everything's going well. The Java fern not so much. We have a dwarf sage there. It looks like Vallisneria, but it's not. That spread throughout the tank. It took a long time to get growing, but once it started growing, once the roots reached the bottom of that soil part of the dirt and substrate, it really took off, and it looks quite nice now. I think the Java fern never really quite recovered the same, but you'll see in front there on the left we've got some Bucephalandra or Bucephalandra, I'm not sure what the pronunciation is. And it's a very, very low maintenance tank with a deep substrate. With the Aquaswell there's nothing wrong really, but I found that after about a year it started just disintegrating and losing those little bead structures. Not that it really mattered. I think it also created a small anaerobic layer that broke down nitrates, because the tank is very low maintenance even then. I really don't get much nitrate. It hardly shows up on the test. It's below 5 ppm. As it is now, I only do a 50% water change about once every 6 weeks. I've done once every 8 weeks as well. It doesn't require a lot of maintenance. The algae gets there, but it stays under control. You can see I've added there a single nerite snail. He's been going for quite a while in this tank as well. There he is at the back, if the camera can focus and the better I can stay out of the way. There he is. And you can see also there is some green hair algae from time to time, which I just manually remove. That type of algae is very easy to remove. So as long as everything stays in balance, it works. And of course, the celestial Paul Daniels have long been replaced by the school of Ember Tetras, and they do very well. They go like a house on fire. No problem with them whatsoever at all. They've been also here now for over a year. Guys, please remember to hit the thumbs up, press the like button, and please subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it as always. And until I see you guys again, tell me what you think in the comment section, and keep taking good care of those domestic denizens of the deep.